closing lecture for the conference, right? And after lunch, so it's the very tough conditions, but I hope it will be interesting. It's the third time, I think, I participate in this conference and I speak about interesting startups. Part of them we invested already in DB, and some others are just very relevant for what was digital twins, now connected industry. And just wanted to open your eyes or broaden your perspective about what we come across in out there in the market. About myself, my name is Daniel. I'm from Israel. I live in Berlin, and I'm managing the portfolio of investments at Deutsche Bahn. We invest in early stage startups globally, and currently, well, I'll tell you more about the fund in a moment. Before that, I worked in the cloud business for AWS and come as an entrepreneur in my background. And before that, also biotech. So I remember in this conference speaking to people from different sectors like healthcare and retail and cloud and whatnot. And I understood how digital twin is just across everything we see from financial and all that. So that's very exciting. Yeah, I have maybe a tiny few figures about DB as a group. Not everybody maybe is from Germany and doesn't know the scale of what we do in public transportation, but it's really a big group with a lot of companies in logistics and transportation. So being a strategic investor in startups is quite challenging, but also very, very interesting. And the technologies that DB touches, everything from blockchain to AI and machine vision and drones and mobility, it's whatnot, Industry 4.0 and robotics. I learned now in 4 years in DB that whatever you think you want to find in DB, there's somebody doing it. From a museum to a Corona PCR test, there's a ship in the North Germany by DB, so anything imaginable, right? A little bit on the very, very high level structure. We have the whole passenger business of rail and buses. The buses mostly in North Europe. Also micromobility, but logistics is very big, with Schenker being the third biggest logistics company in the world in specific areas of logistics. And infrastructure, which is its own subset and extremely complex with a lot of energy and renewable energy and construction and planning. Also DB Eco that does engineering around the world. Every country, every region, there's DB engineering involved. What we invest, we're a very small team investing in startups. We started out investing in mobility as a service startups like fleet management or the integration to the smart city. And we slowly evolved to being more interested in startups that already work with Deutsche Bahn. And the strategic investment is complementary to the cooperation that exists because there's a lot of benefits of investing in a startup that you're working with. You can accelerate the development of the services that you want to use. So you're helping the startup that's anyway in a fragile point, and then you receive the services quicker on the receiver side. Those are more or less the topics that we're looking at now, AI and Industry 4.0 under different parts. All this connected supply chain. Now, a few startups that we invested in or we saw that might be interesting for you. I think this is the most deep tech one called InstaDeep from the UK, even though the founders come from North Africa. We invested in them because they developed with Deutsche Bahn an autonomous traffic management system. And another company was using the services or still using the services called BioNTech. And BioNTech is the vaccine company that's making for Pfizer, the Corona virus, and actually InstaDeep is the AI engine powering this discovery and update of corona vaccines. And earlier this year, BioNTech decided to buy InstaDeep, so it was a big announcement of £500 million exit. That's one of our portfolio companies. What you see on the right side, there's this, right, is our Digitale Schiene Deutschland program, which is for in autonomous driving, trying to make the railway autonomous, which is very difficult to do because there's a lot of things that happen along the network of the rail to make it autonomous without drivers or people. And just this part of how to dispatch trains or how to manage the network of trains in one of the most sophisticated or complex railway networks in the world, which is in Germany. It's like in the heart center of all Europe. Trains are going from one side to the other. We're doing it with this AI company. Brighter AI is a Berlin-based startup. We just invested recently, last year. And they come from the autonomous driving or autonomous vehicles, but now from the data privacy part, there's a lot of data that is accumulated to train autonomous cars in the highest level, because you need to, catch different scenarios along the road and then train your algorithms on it. And there's a lot of people in driver license plates in those videos. So it's very intrusive to people's identity. If you pixelize people's faces like here, you end up with low ratings of trained algorithms. What Brighter AI has as a patent is that they take this face, they put a mask on it in 3D, and they change it so that all the characteristics stay, the gender, emotion, what the person was doing or who the person is, but a machine cannot identify the person. So if you run any type of search on the person, you won't recognize it. You can do it in scale and high quality videos and train your algorithms, but still be safe. You can share, if you're a car company or something, you can share your videos with a third-party company in AI. You're not revealing anyone's identity. Kepler is very strong in connected industry, a Canada satellite company, very, very successful one. It's low orbit nanosatellites. The low orbit and specific engineering for high bandwidth make it excellent for IoT. The idea initially for Kepler was to connect assets around the world to the network, like ships or assets in remote places, but now they actually pivoted and they serve as antenna towers in space. So they connect satellites that don't have a horizon with one another in space, like a cellular antenna does on the ground. And that's very good for connected industry because you know how space is now enhancing our connectivity around the world. Monoliths is a company we invested in actually very early. It's in California and a spin-off from Berkeley. It's a tiny computer on a sticker without the quartz crystal, making the computer even smaller and cheaper. The batteries today could be really a sticker, so 2-dimensional battery, and with some sensors over here, temperature sensor, angular radiation sensor for location, Bluetooth antenna. You can really make this thing a tiny computer, and you can stick it on boxes if you have, to replace RFID, which needs a special infrastructure, and there's a limit to how many RFID labels you can have in one space, and it's manual scanning, and this is the size of the label compared to a coin without the battery. The company is still in early stage, but very, deep technology there. And the labels talk to one another as a swarm of labels. If one of them has access to the network, it takes everyone's information and brings it out. So it's a mesh network of all the labels being actively talking to one another. Gideon is a robotics company in Zagreb, in Europe, and it's making these logistics robots for warehouse. The smart thing about it is the camera that they developed themselves, a stereoscopic smart camera that sees what's happening in the warehouse, maps it. For the digital twin, you get a 3D model with syntax about what's happening in the warehouse. So Connected Industries definitely uses logistics robots. Volocopter, also from Germany, around near Karlsruhe, is it's an air taxi company, but it has like a vision for a logistics drone, where the top of the drone stays as the air taxi up here, which is the patent of the company, and underneath it can carry a pallet or all kinds of heavy weight. And that's actually an investment that DB Schenker did, but my team, we were doing the VC side of that investment. Again, Connected Industry. It's a fully autonomous, fully electric, heavy lift, very heavy lift drone. This is a company that we just came across working with DB. They're not in our portfolio. It's a German company called BII, and they are a digital twin of the construction process. I took a screenshot from their website here. You see they can model the construction area in different stages and the machinery that needs to be deployed in every stage. And if they see that there is a physical disruption, that you cannot bring a machine into a tunnel or something is in the way, they can tell you in advance that your process is fault, and they help our infrastructure company, DB Nets, to avoid these problems in the engineering. Very early stage company, but very interesting technology. We're very excited, to discover this. I'm showing it with you, please.
Okay, thanks. So when you're planning construction sites like this, you probably have different states of your planning. So like you have you find out something is not working well, so you go to the next phase, and then you have an improvement on your planning settings. Do you have implemented some way to have all these different evolvement steps still inside? So like a management system that keeps track of all the changes that have been made in the planning process, so that you can like rewind some things also and look at all the stages of the planning?
So I understand it's a question about the change management in a project.
Exactly, yes.
And this is the part where BII comes in, and when changes happen, this system will alert that a change sounds good, is wanted, but actually disrupts something or interrupts some other process that was there. Because now they want to bring in a concrete column, and they don't know that in half a year something really big needs to pass there, and the concrete column shouldn't stand in the way. Now, about the specific features, I don't know. We really I spoke to them 2 weeks ago for the first time. So I decided to share it because it's so exciting and relevant to digital twins. But I can't go into depth about what the program does. But it does fall under this umbrella, which was, I think, my first presentation under BIM. And BIM is, the way I see it, the digital twin of the construction or planning or the whole life cycle of building. And the 5D is like high-level BIM, where you bring in also the time and the costs, and not only the three dimensionals of the building, but also hidden dimensions of the whole life cycle of maintenance and destruction later on, etc. Another company based in Berlin, also not in our portfolio, but relevant across industries, is Sparrow. Sparrow is a digital twin of the supply chain of spare parts to a company, to a plant, factory, or others. When companies offer a product and spare parts, they do it very professionally and very high level. But if you look in their production line, on the production floor, it's many times very chaotic on how they repair their own machines and the spare parts that they use to manufacture. And what Sparrow does is digitizes that and use machine learning and AI to give the plant manager a scientific tolerance of risk of how secure you want your production to be without a shutdown. And that allows you to reduce your working capital, so you just don't waste money on spare parts that you never use, and also take into account the lead time and all the kinds of historic data. We're talking about thousands of parts per plant, and groups have 20 or 40 or 50 factories. So when you look at the big picture, it's very chaotic, and we're surprised to know that companies use Excel and paper and rule of thumbs to manage their spare parts. Like if it's expensive, you have to have one. If it never breaks, you don't need one. But that's not really that's not a risk, a scientific way to evaluate risk. Sparrow takes it to the digital era, and they're doing it really good. I saw at lunch a participant from a very big pharmaceutical group, and they're actually doing excellent project with Sparrow that's going very well for them. So I guess if there's participants here from manufacturing, it could be like an idea of how to bring digital twin into your daily work. With that being said, I think it's the end of my presentation. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer. If there's startups looking to get ideas or to talk about their plans, feel free to come and talk to me. And thank you very much for listening, and safe trip back for everyone.